Okay, so again, welcome guys to chapter 5. I think this is what I made. Heck. Okay, yeah, here we go. All right, so welcome back guys to chapter 5. It is Monday morning. So chapter 5 is going to be all about bank reconciliation. So again, if you guys read this is actually a very, very short and quick and easy chapter because there's actually not much you really need to really do. As long as you do really good, bookkeeping in your QuickBooks, right? We recognize that we got to look at a lot of transactions that have happened. So between chapters 2 to 4, that is pretty much you need to have all of those things done before having your bank reconciliation done. Now, there are many ways you can reconcile anything, and in this case you can reconcile anything that has a register, so any asset, any liabilities, and any equity account. But primarily what you normally would reconcile would be anything that has typically your bank statement or your credit card statements, okay, because those are the ones that always will be given a monthly or a statement at the end of the month. So that is one kind of record that you will always have. Now again, this book says that you can reconcile anything that is an asset, anything that's a liability, anything that's an equity. But today we're just going to focus on the two main ones, which is going to be reconciling the bank, and then second one will be reconciling the credit cards. So again, let's go ahead and turn to page 144 and look at this bank statement. Okay, as you can see, this bank statement is for Academy Photography for the month of January 2019. As you can see, we have in this one, you have a beginning balance, whatever happened with all the expenses that you have or the checks that you've written, as well as any deposits you've made. And here you have an ending balance of $5,424.92. So again, typically bank statements will give you amounts such as all of the checks that you have and all the deposits you've actually made. So here's all your deposits up here. Here's all the checks that you've written so far. Okay. These things are also important too, whether we had any withdrawals or any interest that we've collected, as well as any services that we were charged. Now, again, when we learned how to do bank reconciliation in accounting, we learned that on the bank side, you need to focus on your dues, which is your deposits and your outstanding checks, right? And for the cash ledger or the checking ledger side, we need to deal with any interest that we've collected, as well as any fees that we've been charged with. So in this case, when we do our reconciliation, we are going to combine both methods into one. All right? So let's go ahead and look at our home page, okay? So there are only two ways you can actually access the reconciliation, all right? As you can see on the home page, it says right here, reconcile. Pretty straightforward, okay? The second way you can get there is at the menu bar under banking. You will see right here, reconcile. Okay, so since I'm already here, let's go ahead and click that reconcile button. All right, and as you can see, this is what the page should look like. All right, now hold on. Before anything though, rule number one that they say that before completing your reconciliation, you need to make sure that all of your transactions have been completed. So again, this is going to be an adjustment entry or things that you do at the end of a given period. So in this case, When I do academy photography, my ending period is every month. So making sure that you have all of your deposits, all of the checks that you've received, all of the checks that you've written, everything has been cleared in your deposits, etc., etc. All your bills have been paid, or etc., etc. Okay, making sure all of your transactions have been completed before completing this reconciliation. This is one of the last things that you have to complete. Okay. So once you get to this window, the very, very first thing that you want to make sure is that this is your checking account. Okay, if I click this little drop down menu here, as you can see, like I said earlier, you can reconcile any asset, any liability, and any equity account. All right. But in this case, my main focus is just my checking account because I'm just dealing with my bank reconciliation right now. So first things first is it's going to tell you, well, what day do you want to do it? Well, obviously it's already selected for me that I'm going to do complete January 31st of 2019. Now, as you can see, the first thing that you're going to see is your beginning balance, which is what you started out with. This number needs to match your beginning balance that appears in your book. Okay, that's the first thing that you got to do, making sure that that 14,000 is what you started with. All right, up here. Okay, so 14,384 and 50 cents. Okay, and does that appear to be correct? Yes, it does. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to be able to type in your ending balance that you have in your bank account. So in this case, it is it 54.24.92? I think so. 54.24.92. Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the first thing that you want to do is whatever appears on your bank statement is what you're going to type in your ending balance as, okay? It's not automated. That's why we're doing a reconciliation, is to confirm that this amount does hold true in your bank statement. So that's the next thing that you have to do. Okay? Now, for any reason that your bank statement and your beginning balance in your QuickBooks does not reflect the same, you have a discrepancy somewhere. And we'll talk about that in a second, okay? So that's the first thing, that you make sure that the beginning balance matches and that you type in whatever ending balance is in your current bank statement. All right? So now, since we're in QuickBooks, right, we need to make sure that we have our fees and our interest that we've collected filled in first, because that's what we need to update our books for. Now, if you read the book, there are many ways that you can enter in these things, right? You can enter in as a bill, and it's automatically taken out of your bank account, or you can actually write a check to it and actually physically write a check and pay for it as well. But if you don't do that prior to completing the bank reconciliation, this way is also going to be sufficient as well. Make sure you only do one or the other, okay? So most oftentimes it's easier and quicker to just go ahead and complete your statement charges as well as interest that you've collected. So the first one is going to say any service charges. So what does the book tell me that I received statement charges for? It's a $10 charge. Good. Okay. So that's what's exactly I'm going to place here is I was charged $10. Okay. On January 31st, 2019. And what account am I going to be using? It should be a bank service charge. There you go. Bank service charge. Here's Nadifa. Hello. Okay, so bank service charge. All right, and then what about the class? Now, because we only have 2 store locations, right? We have we have one in Walnut Creek and we have one in San Jose. This bank has nothing to do with any of the locations. In fact, it involves both of them because this is our one universal account that we do everything for. So you actually have another account called overhead. All right? Overhead. So in this case, we're not separating our expenses based on San Jose or Walnut Creek. We're doing this as an overall unit. So it's going to be considered overhead. All right? How much interest did I actually collect? $8.62. Again, for January 31st, and I believe this is going to be interest income. Interest income. Right? This is interest income that I've collected by receiving from the bank. Okay? And again, it's going to be overhead. All right? Once you've done this and completed this section right here, you're going to go ahead and click continue. And this is where now we need to complete the bank side. Now, before anything goes, as you can see, this is the list of all my checks I've written, and these are all the deposits I have made. All right? At the bottom, as you can see, you can look at how much your beginning balance starts. And this corner right here at the bottom right is your most important one that you need to look at all times. So as you can see, we have interest earned, right? Well, this is what we typed in, interest earned, as well as any bank charges that we received. Ending balance. So now it's been adjusted, right? This is our ending balance. Now, we have cleared nothing so far. So right now, we are currently looking for $8,958.20 worth of expenses or things that we've written or things that we've deposited. So this is where we actually have to go ahead and check mark each and every single one. Now, the easiest way to kind of filter your checks and stuff is you can filter them by date. So they give you the option up here is going to be hide any transactions after the actual statement date. So as you can see right here, let's look at my dates here. I have one check that's outstanding that I written on February 7th. Has nothing to do with my January bank reconciliation. Okay, so if I were to click that, it will clear it up, and everything that you see after the 31st gets eliminated, and you can see all the checks that you've written within the bank statement period. So in this case, anything up to January 31st. So notice I still have that December one. That could have been a pending check that never cleared until now, okay, until January, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at our first section in the bank reconciliation, which is going to be your deposits, okay? So let's look at the deposits. How many deposits have cleared so far? 3, okay? And there's going to be for $249, $1,950, and $1,177. So I'm going to go ahead and go here, and I'm going to look up here to see which ones have cleared. Okay, so as you can see, here is my 1950. So I'm going to do my check mark right here. Okay, and I had my 249, and here's my 1177. Now, notice that every time I check mark something, let's look down here. All right, so right now I need to find my $11,000, right? If I click this, all of a sudden it starts changing. All right, now I've increased it to $12,000 that I have a discrepancy in, or those are the amounts, the balance that it's not the same. So that's only clearing out my deposit. So let's go ahead and clear out my checks. So let's go ahead and read out which checks actually cleared out. Check number and amount. Or actually just check number. Check 325. So my one in December cleared. Good. Check 327. Mm-hmm. 6003. Okay. And that's the only thing that has been cleared. Check number 328 has not cleared yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at my tally. So after I've cleared out all my checks, let's look at our ending balance. Here, it still says that we are outstanding $8,000. Okay, let's look at our bank reconciliation. What other significant $8,000 appear on the bank statement?
The check number nor the paid is blank. So this could have been.
I see other withdrawals and payments.
Good.
Dollar transfer.
Good. It was a withdrawal. Okay, and it says on your bank statement that it was exactly for $8,000, which ding ding ding, if we look at our records, boom, there is the withdrawal for $8,000. So if I were to click that, then look at my discrepancies or look at my bank reconciliation, it is now 0. Okay, now let's say if I accidentally decided just to click this, and because I decided to click everything, now I could see that I'm over by 2,152. Now again, that's why utilize this table as much as you can, especially if you're dealing with a long list of checks as well as a long list of deposits. Okay, so for in this case, now that I find that I have 0, then I can go ahead and complete my transaction. Now, there's also a lot of other things that you can do too. So I'm going to talk about locating discrepancies. So again, if you do for any reason, let's say I'm going to go ahead and select this. Your amount balance is now $2,152. What you can do is if you choose to proceed with your bank reconciliation, right? Then you need to find that $2,152 discrepancy somewhere in your accounts. So what you can do is you can click modify, and it's going to bring you back to that reconciliation window. Once you come here, you have this little button called locate discrepancies. When you click that locate discrepancy, it's going to pretty much look through every single item transaction for you to find where that discrepancy is. So you can do a discrepancy report. You can do you can cancel the bank reconciliation and then complete the discrepancy report. So there's a lot of other things that you can do to try to find that. And remember, the most important thing that you need to recognize before even starting your bank reconciliation is to determine whether your beginning balances match. Again, if they do not match, you need to run a discrepancy locator report. Okay. Now, in this case, of course, this is a perfect example where everything pans out just perfectly fine. Okay, where we have 0. Okay, so again, your book just says if you do have the beginning balance, because what can occur is that maybe a check that you've written, right? You may have an insufficient funds, so the day that you wrote that check, maybe you've already closed out the period. You would actually have to physically go back into the QuickBooks and void it, and that's where you can locate your first discrepancy. There is that you wrote a check, and because it cleared in the first one, but it got rejected after you closed out your books, then that's where you need to modify and change up your QuickBooks to be able to make sure that you have this correctly done. Okay, so the main goal is to make sure that when you start, it's the same as what's in your bank statement, and when you end, it's the same as your bank statement. Okay. Once we've gotten to 0, and we go ahead and click reconcile now, right? It's going to validate. There you go. And then now you have 3 extra options that you have here. You can do a summary report, a detailed report, or both. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do both. So I'm going to go ahead and click display. So again, summary. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Okay. So your summary report pretty much tells you exactly of all the details that has happened and what are the total things that you've cleared out, and et cetera, et cetera. And it pretty much shows you your step-to-step on how, all of the amounts that you've actually done. And then your detailed report, let me go ahead and make this smaller. Your detail report is basically going to list out every transaction that occurred and that actually brought you to your ending balance on both the previous and the most recent transaction you've done. Okay, so those are the options that you have once you complete your reconciliation. Okay. Of course, for any reason that you feel that, oh, I messed up somewhere, you can always go to the reconcile, right? Make sure you're at checking, and you can always undo your last reconciliation. Now, be careful when you do that, because what happens is that every time you click this button, right, when you undo everything, it doesn't actually undo most of the transactions that you've done, because the one thing that you'll see that will appear on the next reconciliation is that your interest income and that your service charges, they're already included in the reconciliation. So you want to be careful every single time you undo your reconciliation. You're only building and building and building more discrepancies as you go through trying to reconcile your books. So because we've got to 0, right? We're good to go, and that's what you want to keep it. You want to keep it like that. But if you did find a discrepancy, you could always undo your reconciliation, and then you can locate your discrepancy. Okay? And that is how you do bank reconciliation. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Any questions?
When you select the undo last reconciliation, you have to highlight or check Does that mean you have to start all over again?
Well, see, as you see the date here, it's still the 31st. Oh, well, now it's not so if I were to go ahead, it's the following month, right? So with QuickBooks Pro, you can only do 1 month at a time. With QuickBooks Premier, you get to see all of them, all the months that you've done your reconciliations for. All right. Now, so I mean, since it says now this is the one for the next month, when I click undo the last reconciliation, it's going to be the whatever previous date that you've had it for. So in this case, again, Academy of Photography, they adjust their books every at the end of every month. Their ending period is every month. So in this case, if I were to click this, right, it's going to be for the previous month of January 31st. Okay, because that's the one that we've just completed and we just did the report on it. Okay. Yes, is that clear?
So again, when you click the undo, you have to change the date on that and everything then.
Absolutely not, because this one is your current one. You only have your January that you previously done.
So you cannot change because the one that we're reconciling right now is the ending of January.
Right now, I already completed that. I already submitted that. So now that I opened up the reconciliation window again, it's assuming, oh, wait, you want to reconcile for February?
No, because my question there is, should you find some discrepancies and you ended up clicking complete, but then after that, you found something different. So you cannot get back to that from the start of the reconciliation again? Or no?
Yes, you
Once it's
can.
submitted, it's done.
Once you submit it, your only option is to undo it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when you undo,
Hmm.
so you have to change that date then.
No, because you never completed February.
That's what I'm saying. You have to backdate the January.
You do not need to select the date because it's already been done. So if you start doing this in February, then it's something's a little off right there, because why are you reconciling your bank statement in February when you should be doing it in January? So in this case, right now, my current reconciliation that I want to complete is for February. That means I've already completed my January. So if I undo the last one, it's going to automatically pull up the last one that we just completed, which was for January. And it's going to undo it.
That's my point of view. When you click the undo,
Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Undo. Then here you go. It gives you this little option that you said, are you sure you want to undo this? For the and it gives you the date that happened for the previous month's reconciliation that you just recently did, which was the January one. Yes? Do you see this?
it shows only the amount, the beginning and ending.
Exactly, because this is the last statement that the last reconcile I just done. I haven't completed February yet. So when you click undo the last one, it's going to be for whatever one that you've done, you just submitted. So in this case, the one I just submitted was for January 31st. You don't need to change the date because you're not working on another reconciliation. It's automatically pulls up the last reconciliation that you've completed. Now, let's say you're in February and all of a sudden you have a discrepancy in December. Obviously, you're not doing good accounting right there, because you never want to go back too far.
Yeah. That's the purpose of reconciling it every end of the month.
Right.
When you get the statement, so you have something to refer it with compare
Mm-hmm.
the bank statement as well as with your own record. But
Mm-hmm.
now the question is, granted that you made an error for that January, so you have to go back, so you undo, and it automatically goes back to the latest. Is that
Correct,
what you're saying?
because it
What
should
you
be
mean?
January.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever one that you've already completed, right? It's your last reconciliation. It will pull up whatever you last entered. So in this case, I'm in February. So my last one I've done was January. So I click undo last reconciliation and it will pull up January's. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not going to do it, so I'm going to go click cancel. But yes, so when you do undo last reconciliation, it's going to give you that window saying, are you sure that this is it? And if anything, here is the previous beginning balance, which is what you want to look at, not your previous ending balance, because that's what your beginning balance is for February. So as you could see, your beginning balance for February is 5424.92, which is exactly what we ended in January 31st. Okay, so in this case, we just want to make sure that we get to this window where it tells you, well, your last reconciliation, your beginning balance was the 14,000, which we've recognized because that's exactly what our bank statement says. It validates that this is correct, that this is the last bank reconciliation we've completed. Okay. All right. So again, I'm not going to do it because the book is pretty straightforward. If the beginning balance does not match as of, let me see if I could go ahead and do this one. If it does not match as of, so see, now because I'm completing a brand new statement, even if I did change the date, it wouldn't change this because this is now a new reconciliation. We need to undo the previous one in order to undo all the things that we've done so far. Okay, so in this case, even if you change the date, it doesn't matter because this is a current reconciliation. And where we could find our previous reconciliation is, again, you're going to go to your reports and go to that window where you, after you complete your reconciliation, you have that report that you've completed the reconciliation. So you would have to go back to that. Okay. So any other questions on bank reconciliation? No? Okay. So we talked about finding discrepancies. Again, you're going to be using that locate discrepancy window on your bank reconciliation. Okay. They do say that if in case you do proceed with your reconciliation, knowing that you have a discrepancy, they tell you there are 3 ways that you can do it. The first one is to, before pressing the reconciliation button, locate that discrepancy first. If not, then undo the bank reconciliation, locate that discrepancy, and then move on forward. Okay. So the next section we have here is, well, what happens if we actually either receive a bounce check or we actually if we are the ones who wrote the bounce check and how we actually complete that. Now there are a few things that you need to know, especially if on both ends, whether I wrote the bad check or someone else wrote the bad check. So first off, we're gonna deal with first when a customer writes us a bad check. So as you can see here, the example says that Mr. Bob Mason he decides to write us a bounce check and we deposit it to the bank. Now, of course, what we know is that if a customer decides to send us a faulty check, we deposit it. What's going to happen is the bank is going to charge us money because we deposited a faulty check. Therefore, they penalize us because we deposited a check that didn't have enough money in it. Kind of weird, but they charge us as the vendor or the person who sold the product to them, and it charges the customer who wrote the bad check itself. So they charge on both ends. And what we have to do is, well, if we do, so let's go ahead and check this out. So in this case, we have Mr. Bob Mason. He wrote a bad check for check number 2526 for the 1177, which we've already recognized that we already deposited his check. Okay, so there are a couple ways that you can find this transaction. You can find it either go to your customer center. All right, you can locate Mr. Bob Mason. All right, I gotta pull this a little. There you go. I'm gonna go ahead and locate Mr. Bob Mason. Bob Mason. So right now he owes us nothing. And if I go ahead and pull his transactions out, okay, I'm going to see that he made a payment 2526, and I'm going to double click this. Now here is his payment / his check is right here, okay, under customer payment. Now, if I go up to the very top, I can see that there are options at the top that I can look at. So for this case, I have to unapply a discount. I can discount and any credits, or I can record a bounce check. That's the one that we want to do because he decided to write us a faulty check, okay? And that's one way that you can figure it out. As long as you get to the customer payment window, you'll be able to find this little window right here. So that's one way to do it, is just go through the customer center and actually locate the customer payment. Or you can actually, another way that they say too in your book is that instead of going to the customer center and locating it, you can, let me go to my home page. You could go to your home page, right? And you could click on receive payments. And in this case, because Bob Mason was our last transaction, you could actually click the previous button to find that Mr. Bob Mason was his. But again, if you're dealing with many customers, your last payment may not even be Bob Mason. And you don't want to sit there and having to click back until you find his actual transaction. So I would recommend you, instead of doing it that way, go to the customer center, locate the person, because obviously you're going to get notified that Mr. Bob Mason's check has bounced. And you're going to locate him, Bob Mason. Okay, you want to look at all his transactions and find the exact check number, which is the 2526, and then record the bounced check. So if I click this record bounced check, right, let's notice this. He owes us $11.77, all right? And I'm going to go ahead and click record bounced check. Once I've done that, now it's going to give me this window here. This window is going to say, it's going to ask you a few questions that you need to do to make sure that you record this properly. So the first one is, how much did the bank charge you? Okay, so in this case, the bank has actually charged me $10 because I deposited a faulty check. So they charged me $10. Okay? When did they charge you? Obviously, the day that you did your reconciliation for. So it'd be January of 2019, 31st. Okay? And then, of course, it's going to be under bank service charges because they charged me for having to record that bounce check. We never actually received the $1,177. It actually reverted, and now I have a hole in my deposits or in my bank. Okay. And of course, class, I believe he is San Jose. Okay, so making sure that when you do this, it actually pulls the information saying, okay, so once I've done this, it's going to pull back that the payment has been revoked. What's going to pull back to is going to be the accounts payable it's now increased because now he still owes you. All right? And that's what the accounting does behind in the back. All right? Now, the second portion is going to say, well, how much are you going to charge the customer for having that inconvenience charge? And this is where you can make your, agreements or whatever you have when it comes to making your company policy, right? If you decide to send us a faulty check, I'm going to charge you X percent of the amount that the check is worth. I'm going to charge you $20. I'm going to charge you $50. Whatever charge or fee that you want to tack onto a customer, this is where you can do so. But you have to know that when you do charge this, you must inform your customer before doing this. Okay? Meaning if they sign up for your account, right, to have an account with you, you need to make sure that these are the rules. So for example, when you have a credit card company, right, you need to read the details on how much they're going to charge you. What's the percentage rate? What's all this? Is there an annual charge? How often do you need to pay? What's the minimum payment? What's your window of where you don't receive any APR? Okay? There are rules and guidelines that you need to read up before even submitting a document. So this is where that company policy is going to align. Now in this case, I can charge Mr. Bob Mason whatever I want. But because I have to have that company policy, I believe I only charge double the amount, right? I need to receive the $10 to cover my bank's charge, and I'm going to receive $10 for you for you sending me a bad check. So in this case, I'm going to charge him $20. And then I'm going to go ahead and click next. So here it's going to give you a report on everything that you're going to say, and you're going to say, okay, yes, finish. All right. Now, once you've done that, you're going to notice that you get flagged with a red you get flagged with a little notice in red saying that this was a bounce check. And if I go ahead and close this, right, I notice that look at what happens here. The $20 get tacked on here. I'm going to go ahead and close this window. And what I'm going to notice is if I go back to Mr. Bob Mason, he owes me $1197.86. So again, here, as we could see, we have under Bob Mason, let me click Bob Mason, we have the invoice, right? It changed this one. So because we don't have that check anymore, it re-entered in another invoice, and it's also entered in a journal transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and check out what that journal transaction is. So again, it's that little bank charge that I've encountered, all right? I encountered that I had to reverse the freaking $1177 because I've already deposited it, right? we already closed out our account. So this is our adjustment saying, well, we need to re-up the accounts payable and we need to reverse the checking because we no longer have this 1177 anymore. So that is called an adjustment entry, and we will talk about that in chapter 13. All right, here again, the invoice gets revoked and recreated. So here it is. But this time, let's look at what our statement is looking at now. It's the same, it's this time, it's tacked on with an additional charge of $20. Okay? So that is it for here. Now, the next section, so any questions in regards to recording bounced checks?
No, ma'am.
It's pretty standard, pretty straightforward. As long as you know how much the bank is going to charge you, right? And you can find that obviously when you pull up your bank statement, okay? It is good accounting if you check your bank, either every day or frequently. So just to make sure that all your deposits and all your stuff cleared. But if you have notifications from your bank, it will also notify you, well, hey, you just deposited a faulty check and that you need to pay. Okay? All right, so once we've done that, now it's time to go ahead and receive a new payment. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that I received a payment from this person, from Mr. Bob Mason. All right, and as I notice, I have this that now he owes me a total of $11.97, including the other invoice that I charged him separately for the $20 bank charge, and from his previous transactions that calculated all the way to $11,177. So this is where I'm gonna go ahead and select that he's making a payment for everything. Okay, so the date is going to be, I believe it's I think it was the 7th of February, and I'm going to go ahead and select all of these because he has paid for all of them. So again, so he wrote a check and he wrote it for $1197.86. So that means I can select all of them. Okay? Including the charge that we made. So what was this check number that he wrote? Was it
2538.
2538. Thank you. So once we've done that, the date's there, he's paid off his bill, then I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. All right, and you're going to get this window and you can click OK. So once you get that beep of approval, now I have another line of transaction saying he actually gave me a payment. All right, so that's what happens when a customer decides to write us a bad check and we deposit it. Okay. Now the next section is going to be, well, what if we are the one who wrote the bad check? So there are lots of things that you can do when it comes to us writing a bad check. Okay, so again, here are the steps that you can do to take in order to be able to solve the issue when you write the bad check and they deposit it. Obviously, you're going to go ahead and call the bank, making sure that why you have this. You're going to double check your bank account. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can contact the vendor itself saying, hold on to that check, don't do anything about it, or deposit it later. You can always void the check and send out a new one. That's typically rule of thumb you should definitely do, is void the check that you have and just write a brand new one. Because at the end of the day, if they find out that you gave them a faulty check, they're going to charge you, just like we charge Bob Mason. So just make sure that you are aware of that. Contact your bank, contact the vendor to make sure what necessary steps that you need to take in order to fix this transaction or to send a new check. Obviously, deposit money that you haven't deposited, so then you have enough money in the bank to cover your to cover your statement. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because there's actually no exercise in regards to where we actually write a faulty check. So, but those are just the necessary steps that you can take. All right. Any questions? Okay. If not, we'll talk about having to reconcile credit cards. So again, the credit card transaction is going to be identical. If not, it's very, very, very similar to the bank reconciliation. Okay? So everyone on page 156 to look at the credit card statement. So again, these are the two most typical reconciliations that you will more or less have to complete would be the bank and the credit card. So in this case, as you can see, we have our credit card statement here with our ending balances. So here we recognize the date is going to be for February 28th. So we're completing the credit card statement or credit card reconciliation for the month of February. Okay, as you can see, our new balance or our balance is $184.81. Now let's actually look through our transactions, because what we notice is that this is going to be included with our interest. So let's actually look. So as you can see, we have a charge of $133 and then $35 to rentals, okay? And then we got charged $16.11 for our interest that we have incurred, because that's typical when it comes to credit cards. You're always going to get charged interest every month, okay? And yes, so let's go ahead and record this reconciliation. So just the same as if you are doing a bank reconciliation. So you can either go to banking and reconcile, or you can actually click this reconcile button. Now again, instead of the checking, we're actually going to drop down to the menu and go to our National Visa credit card. Okay, so now our windows have changed. So make sure when you're reconciling something, you have to click this drop down menu to choose which account you are wanting to reconcile, and that will change the form for you. So in this case, I'm going to reconcile my credit card. All right. Now it's asking me, so here it says that my beginning balance that I had previous was $2,152. If I look at my bank statement, that should be also the same as well. You should have also started off with the same amount. Now again, it's also depending on things as well, such as, did you make a payment to this? In this case, if I look here on the 7th of February, I made a payment for the $2,152. So I've already made a payment off of that, so my balance right now should be actually $0. But then I incurred 2 more transactions on the 15th and the 20th that caused me to now be over by 166. I need to enter in that I got charged $16.11 worth of interest. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my bank reconciliation, and my ending balance is going to be for the 184 and what is it? 184.81. Okay, 184.81. Okay, here I'm gonna indicate that I got charged $16.11, and I'm doing it for the February. So make sure that this is correct. And the account here is going to be interest expense because I have to pay this interest. All right. Class again will also be overhead.
You put insurance and expense.
Oh, so thank you.
Yeah.
Interest. There you go. Interest expense. And then the class is again going to be overhead because it doesn't apply to the Walnut Creek or the San Jose stores. This is an overall thing. So once we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And the same thing's going to happen. It's going to say, well, this is what I've recorded in my books, right? All these credit card transactions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and validate that this is true and that this is true. So therefore, my discrepancy is going to be now what you your difference was from the beginning. Oh, and I also made a payment. So there you go. My discrepancy is now 0. So on the right side is your payments to the credit card, and your left side is going to be your charges that you've encountered with your credit card. So here I am now at 0. Okay. All right. And like I said, it's pretty straightforward. They're the same thing. Once I click reconcile, now here's the difference. Instead of getting a report, I have the options to either enter in a bill or I can pay my credit card right now. Okay? And in this case, I believe I pressed enter a bill. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So there is no report for your credit card reconciliation. You only have 2 options to either pay the bill or you either enter a bill in. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, this is where you're going to get asked a few things here. So here you get your summary report for your credit card reconciliation. So I'm going to go ahead and click. I'm going to click close. I don't need to see them. Now again, this is the tricky part here. As we know, when we pay off our credit cards, we're not obligated to pay the entire amount. You can either choose to pay the minimum payment or you could choose a different amount to either pay more than the minimum payment or to pay half, whatever amount that you want to pay. So in case you decide that you're not going to pay for the full amount, this is where you need to modify or reflect your bill as whatever amount that you are going to pay for. So in this case, I'm running a bill saying that I am going to pay for the full amount of the $184. But my minimum, let's just say it's a typical credit card, right? My minimum payment is $25. I can choose to only pay $25. And if I choose to pay $25, I need to modify this because what this is entailing is that it's taking your credit card balance and the and the accounting behind the scenes is saying that once I validate this, I'm transferring my credit card amount into an accounts payable. Okay? And then when I make the payment on my bill, it's not going to reflect how much money I owe on my credit card, but it's actually gonna reflect on how much I actually owe in general. So this is why when you do create a bill, you're going to create it for the amount that you choose to pay for it for. So in this case, it's only $184. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to make a whole payment to this. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this and say that I will enter this bill in. So that means I'll make a payment on sometime in March for my full 184 and 81 cents. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay, once you've done that, now I have a bill pending in my transactions. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my chart of accounts, and I'm going to go ahead and look at my credit card. So my Visa National Bank credit card. And notice that I didn't make a payment to my credit card yet. So I still owe that amount. But remember when I was talking about this, because I've entered a bill in, it looks like I've already paid it, but I really didn't, because you need to make that payment. Remember? You need to pay the bill off in order to decrease your accounts payable. But in this case, because I've made that the reconciliation, I transferred my credit card amount into an accounts payable by creating a bill. So in this case, I owe the credit card nothing. However, if I go to my accounts payable account, of course, it's going to tell me that I have a whole bunch of other things entered in, but I have my, where is my bill for it? For my bill for, what date did I put it in for? The 28th? Okay, let me go ahead and just look it up using my bill pay. So bill, enter bills. It's my previous transaction. Okay, so here you go. My $400. Where did my bill payment go? Okay, bill tracker. All right, I have a bill. Okay, so here it is. Here's my bill right here for my $184. Okay, so I didn't put a notation on it or a number on it per se. So that's probably why I couldn't locate it. So here it is, my 184. And if I make a payment to it, then my amount that I owe decreases, and then what happens is it's going to recognize that on my actual credit card. Okay, so that's how you reconcile your credit cards, and the only difference is you're going to either enter in a bill or you can pay the credit card off right then and there. Right? Any questions for reconciling a credit card?
When you selected a while ago,
Mm-hmm.
there were two choices whether write a check.
Mm-hmm.
When you select, should you select the write a check immediately?
You can if you choose to pay, but what happens is when you receive your credit card statement, right? They usually give you a window when your bill is due. So, for example, maybe this Visa credit card, right? They send you the bill saying this is your monthly charges for February. Your bill is due for I don't know, March 7th. They gave you 7 days to pay it. Okay, so let's go ahead and click this bill. Here's the date that I receive it. So here they said that my bill due date is, oh, okay, that's why I couldn't find it. my bill due date is going to be for the 30th of March, okay? Assuming this, okay? So I have a couple days to choose to whether I could pay it now. So the option is that if you choose to write a check the day that you receive your bank statement, or I'm sorry, your credit card statement, you can choose that as well. Okay?
You don't have to, but you still have to go all those different steps that you showed.
You should for reconciling the credit card, you should absolutely 100% do that.
Have to do it. Okay.
Because not only are you because there's also a few things here too. Credit card transactions, they don't always appear the minute you swipe your card. Okay? There's always that given time period. Oh, you may have to wait 24 hours for your transaction to appear. Okay? That's also same thing for bank statements, right? If you use your bank card and you start, swiping, right? And you're charging, sometimes it will go through right away. Sometimes it does not go right away. Okay? Especially, with nowadays, it does go right away. But especially if you also utilize your bank card or your bank account for doing online transactions, such as I make purchases on Amazon. I use my bank card, right? That Amazon transaction will not appear until Amazon chooses to charge your card. Okay? So again, it may not appear right away. So that's why it's very, very rule of thumb to, if you're reconciling your credit card is definitely necessary and you should definitely do it. Okay? All right? And I can choose to pay this bill today or I can choose to pay another time. Okay? Because usually with credit cards, they usually give you a monthly statement and they expect to either have you pay it either, you get to choose that date too, I believe. You get to choose when you want to pay it. Okay? Or every month when you want to pay it. So that's how you do that. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So again, entering in all that stuff, right? Now the last section is going to be bank feeds. Now, this is unnecessary unless you choose to have QuickBooks to allow it to have access to your online banking. Okay? Now, of course, if you read this whole entire section, it is very dangerous if you're also having it connected to your bank account, but especially using it on your bank. Now, of course, what you can use it for is if you choose to use it for online banking, to have it, whether you're making online payments, whether you're paying other stuff online, or whether you are trying to retrieve your bank statement as with the click of button by clicking that. Of course, with bank feeds, you'll get notifications for whatever happens to your account, and QuickBooks will recognize it immediately. Okay, so but that means what you're going to do is every time you open up QuickBooks, it's going to have access to your online banking account at all times. And it's already dangerous enough as is by allowing the bank to be connected to your QuickBooks as is, as well as all of other, sensitive or information such as your customers' credit card numbers. So the more stuff that you add to your QuickBooks, the more, vulnerable your data and very sensitive it is to other people because, again, fraud can happen at any time. So that's what bank feeds are. It's basically you connecting your online banking to QuickBooks. So you can read that section up if you choose to do online banking using QuickBooks. All right. But in this case, if I click on it, it's gonna ask me to set up my online banking account. And in this case, I don't have one, especially for Academy Photography. So I'm just gonna leave it at it as is. Okay. So that is the end of chapter 5. So any questions in anything that we learned in chapter 5? Again, it's a quick read. No? Okay. All right, then let's go ahead and do the review questions. All right, so question number 1, okay? When the beginning balances of the begin reconciliation window does not match, okay, what do?
C.
C, yes, you're gonna find the locate discrepancy window and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, the longest, in this case, yes, this one would be the correct answer, okay? You wouldn't call the bank for any reason, okay? And you wouldn't change the amount in the QuickBooks, obviously, because that's going to be where fraud happens, okay? You don't fix any data that happens in the past unless you actually made a mistake. But C is the correct answer, yes. Number 2, okay, which statement is false?
A.
Okay, got one person that says A.
Yeah. A. Irina.
Okay. All right. So yes, A is actually false. So let's look at this statement. Okay, you can enter in bank service charges by entering statement charges. No, entering statement charges is dealing with your customers. Okay, so remember we learned this actually the previous day, right? We learned this last week on Thursday. On Wednesday, that statement charges are going to be dealing with your customers. So no, you actually cannot enter it in. Yes, you can enter it in using the bank reconciliation window. You can enter it in through write checks as well as actually entering it in as a payment. Okay. Number 3. Okay. When you find a erroneous, okay, amount on your transaction while reconciling, what can you do?
C.
Okay, so we have someone that says C.
D.
All right, we got someone that says D. Okay, we got C. Okay, so the answer is actually D. You're going to have to perform either B or C. Okay, so C was an answer, but however, B was also an answer that you can also do as well. You can double clicking on the entry and changing the amount on the transaction. So we talked about yes, in case you do create any errors along the way, right? Let's say you got a check and you need to avoid it, but you forgot to do it. Yes, you can actually change it, but it's not recommended. Okay, and you can do it while you're in the reconciliation window. Okay, but again, it's not recommended to change any details once you've completed all your transactions. But the answer is B or C, so D. Number 4, all right. To properly record a voided check from a closed accounting period, what should you do?
C.
Okay, so I got someone that says C.
Yeah. C.
Okay. All right. C is actually the correct answer. Okay. A and B says you need to delete. Rule of thumb. Never, ever, ever delete any transactions, even no matter if it's a wrong transaction or anything. So A says delete the transaction. No. B says to delete and to avoid it by deleting it. No. Okay. And then D says change the amount on the check to 0. No. And we'll talk about 0 checks in chapter 13, I believe it. Okay. But no, you don't go in there and you don't adjust it to make it 0. You do need to go in there and you need to either right click and void the check, or you need to actually click the edit and void the check that way. Okay, that's typically how you void a check in general. Okay. Last question is going to be number 5. Which of the following cannot be seen, okay, in the checks and payments section of the reconciliation window? Say that again? B. Yes, there's no class, okay? Obviously, the check number's there. The date and who you paid to is for surely there, all right? Your classes will never be there, okay? Because you're dealing with a bank reconciliation. You're dealing with both classes. So there's no need to have classes there, okay? So right now, it is now 9:53, so I'll call it 9:55. I'll give you a 15-minute break, and we can go ahead and get Chapter 6 started on reports. So please be back no later than 10:10. Okay?